I am super excited to talk to you today about the number one fitting tool I use to really turn a lot of light bulbs on in my head and help me understand fitting. And I did this approximately 10 to 15 years ago. I want to share with you what I did in this video and how I did it. And then in part 2 of this video, I'm going to explain to you how I use this fitting tool. I call it the ultimate fitting tool, at least for me it was, in identifying what to look for in a commercial pattern, things that you want to consider, and the final question is, can you make a pattern from this tool? And the answer is yes, I have. Most of the patterns, commercial patterns I see, I will just use this as a tool to make alterations, but I have used it to make patterns from this, and I'm going to show you all about that in video 2, part 2 of this series. So I went to my friend Deb's house, and Deb was a customer that I met where I used to work, and she is awesome, and she has started her journey into garment sewing, and she is doing a fabulous job. And she allowed me to video her while I'm using this fitting tool so I can show you how to do it as well. The SARAN WRAP block is molded right to your body, so when we take this off and cut it off, you're going to know exactly where your darts are. You're going to know exactly how your armhole should be. And from the SARAN WRAP block, you're going to do a gingham, a 1/4 inch gingham fitting shell of your upper body. And we're going to do it from the waist up to the neck. Put your arms up just a little bit, but try not to change your posture. And we're going to put this on her body. Snug. And if you ever do this at home, you want to wear a snug garment. There's going to get to a point where you will not be able to do this, and so then I will take over.
Longer or shorter?
Yeah. Now, are you wearing a good bra?
Oh, I'm wearing, all my bras are good bras.
Okay, so this is a bra that you would wear when you're fitting.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I have all the same bra.
Okay.
I like them so much, I got 8 of them.
Okay, I was just going to mention that, because when you find a good bra, you want to generally buy at least 4 or 5 of that bra, because that's going to make fitting so much easier for you, because you never have to worry about the difference between like the fit of one bra to another, and that is so important. I think I'm going to take over now. Maybe not.
Sure? Just tell me longer, shorter.
Okay, it doesn't really matter, because right now I'm just doing this part right here.
And I'm not going to suck my gut in.
That's okay. You want to make sure that you press this firmly to the body. Okay, now I'm going to do the chest part last, because sometimes this makes it very hard to breathe. Thank you. You're good at this, whereas I am not good at doing this. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this over her shoulder, and it doesn't matter if it's going too far into the neckline right now, because we use our marker and we mark the armholes and things like that, but I am going to bring it up a little bit more so that she can actually move her arm. Okay. And I'm going to be touching your bust.
You're right.
Sorry. I'm going to get fresh.
In sewing, we're all friends.
Yes, I'm going to get fresh with her.
There's
Sure.
there's no shyness in sewing.
No, there isn't. There isn't. If you've ever gone to a fitting class with any of the greats like Pamela Leggett, there's no modesty.
No, there's
you
not,
walk
especially
around.
Pants.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I did the pant fitting seminar with Pamela Leggett, and we're all walking around in our underwear and stuff like that. So, and you're just doing a lot of layering, a lot of pushing in, and it doesn't matter if you go out beyond the shoulder, because like I said, we're going to mark that. Okay, are you having no problem moving?
Nope.
Okay. I just want to make sure that this is thick enough. It helps to have more layers than less. Put this around again. And the cling wrap really, it just molds to itself. But if you have it thick enough with enough layers, it makes it a little bit easier to work with when you cut it off the body. You definitely want to make sure you do this in an air-conditioned environment, because this gets hot awfully fast. And And you don't really have to press too much in between the bust because your patterns don't dent in there unless it's like a really tight-fitting bustier type of style. And you do want to smooth it more snugly to the bust in this area because that's going to allow you to see where your dart, how your dart is shaped. We're going to do in the front across here. I'm going to have her go get a necklace so we can mark your neckline. All right, so Deb and I have pretty much finished up. I put a lot of saran wrap all over her body. Deb, turn around. And then we did the back. Again, you should be seeing a very thick layer of saran wrap. And if you see too much color of the garment underneath, go over it again. And then after you finish, really press it and mold it to the body, all right? Don't press too much in here between the bust line, but just kind of mold it over the bust curve, mold it over, you know, your back, your shoulder blade curves, and in the front as well. And I pressed it down in the shoulders. So what we have done is we have marked the center front, and I have eyeballed it from where that indentation is at her neck, and I went down, and I figured out where that center front is. This is also her right front over here. You have to mark these. This is your left front over here. And then I'm going to mark back in, because I did this very lightly, where the neckline is. And this is where it's really helpful to wear a necklace. And Deb, I'm going to turn you around, so that we can identify where that neckline is. Look this up, and then, like I said, some of this is arbitrary. We're just making a guesstimate as far as where this is, and we can always tweak that on the pattern and really use like our French curve to really get those curves nice. On the back, I marked it from where that bone is in her back, and I tried to feel as much as I could where her spine was going all the way down. You might want to use the guideline for a pair of pants, but usually you can feel right where that spine is. And don't be surprised if you cut this apart and you find your spine is curvy. That happened to me. All right, for the shoulder seams, this is always, in my opinion, a really hard place to judge. I feel for the bone, and I can feel this is fleshy here, this is the bone. If you look on your shoulder, there's usually an indentation at the very top of your bone. So I kind of felt for that and then drew this in. And again, arbitrary, I'm just kind of guessing where this should be, but it's pretty darn close of where it should be. Deb, I'm going to turn you around. All right, put your arm down, and we'll go from the top. And I'm looking for that arm crease. So the arm crease really stops right where that is. And you can kind of even see this, because when she's walking around and moving, that kind of want to find its place into that crease. And then I'm just going to lift this up and try to bring this down so we have a guideline when we cut this, because this is going to be really important for when we cut the bust dart. Okay, and then side seams, you're going to want to kind of look, gauge where the center of that armpit is, and go all the way down. I'm just trying to do a visual. I'm also looking at the seam in her jeans. Not that the seam is extremely reliable, because sometimes if you have well-developed thighs, that will pull the seam toward you or toward the front, but you can see where that's happening. Her thigh is down here, but up here it's pretty much laying where it should be. I'll turn her around. Again, this was previously marked, so I'm just going to trace down again and then trace up a little bit, bring this down, and then trace around here. All right, I'll come back up here. Bring it forward. Just bring your arm up a little bit. Okay, but you want to try to get as close to the armpit as possible. I drew in her shoulder seams. Again, did the best that I could. Okay, let me do this one. I'm going to have you face the camera. So I'm looking for her ear and going down to where I feel the center is. I think that's a good gauge. All right, let me check the other one. Just basically looking for that ear. Okay, so this is where I'm going to take this. Take whatever you got on hand. Usually elastic is good, but I got my tape measure. Okay. And normally I would say walk around for a little bit, but I'm really checking here. This seems like the natural indent to her waist. Okay. And I'm just going to mark it right below. The measuring tape is off of her body. And Deb, I'm going to try to do this from the side first. That might be a little easier for me.
I thought you were cutting the shirt off with it.
No. I'm going to try to salvage the shirt. But I mean, you could actually cut the shirt off with it, but eventually the shirt's going to come off anyway. And I'm really trying to get my fingers between the saran wrap and her shirt. These quadrants, when placed on a flat table, will not lie flat because they have been molded to her bust curve and her shoulder curves in the back. If you see something peeling up, just press it right back down. And what is below the waistline will be cut off.
I was going to say, why are you cutting below the waistline?
Because we're only doing this to the waist. We're doing upper body. If you do the waist separately, you can always connect them together. I call this the no math fitting shell, or very, very minimal math, because you really don't have to do much in terms of any type of measuring. It just comes right off your body. And that is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Thank you. I took a class with Shannon Gifford, and when she saw my muslin stitched up for my saran wrap block, she's like, oh my gosh, that's almost spot on. It was just beautiful. I think the most illuminating part of doing this was seeing how my darts should be shaped on my body as well. It was not only darts, it was the armhole curve for a full bust. Okay, so 20 minutes or so later, now we're ready to go to a table and finish cutting these and mark these up. The next thing I'm going to do is cut around where the neckline is. So just cut where you marked. And honestly, what I should have done is on the back, and I would recommend doing this, have some crosshatch like marks where you can align it when you're creating the pattern. It's not going to be a big deal if you don't, but that can be very helpful. So here we got this armhole, very curvy in here. You know, this is the left front. But look at this curve. Look how cute that is. So now we have to mark the apex or the highest point of the dome, the curvature on each pattern piece, which is going to let us know where the bust apex is. So this is our left front right here, and I can see that dome shape right here. So if we turn it to the side, I'm just looking for that Sharpie right now. Do we have the Sharpie right there? Okay. So when I turn it to the side and look straight on, I'm gonna have to get my head in front of the camera here. Bust apex is right here. And if I turn it this way, I'm going to see that the bust apex is, I'm gonna try to put my hand in there, make a little more curvature. I'm going to see the bust apex is probably about, there's a little point there. I don't know if that's Saran wrap.
That's Saran wrap.
Okay, so I'm gonna say right about here and right here. This is my bust point, okay? So that is the apex. And we're going to mark this on each pattern piece separately, because remember, you could have body asymmetry. Yes, so turn it to the side, right around here. Turn it straight on. I'm gonna say right here. And sometimes we'll put these together to see if they pretty much correspond. Now this is the back right here, and this is the left back. Again, back curvature. Deb works out a lot. All right, so we have curvature right here, apex, highest point. I'm going to turn it straight on, and I'm going to say the highest point is right here. Dart must point to here. So now we're going to draw our dart markings in to watch this pattern flatten out. So now we're ready to create the darts. And where do you put a dart? Well, really a dart is wherever you want it. This is considered the bulging block. You can have your dart coming from the center, you can have your dart coming from the neck, from the shoulder point, but typically in the modern styles, we're seeing darts about 1/3. Actually, we're not going to do an armhole dart. We're going to do a side dart. So we're going to do one right here. It could be an armhole dart though. Okay. So I'm going to cut a line from here to the center point of my pattern. In this, you cut right to the pattern. Darts are never stitched to the center point, but they are cut to the center point on the pattern. Okay. Flattening out a little bit, okay? I am seeing some curvature here, okay? So what I can do, I'm gonna leave this just like this for now. So let's see how flat we can get it. There's still a little bit of area right here that is bulging. We'll take care of that in a little bit. Typically on the back, your darts start from the shoulder. So I'm going to start right about here, go right here. Look how flat that is. That is perfect. And there is, right here, this is her dart control for what she needs for her body. The left back and the right back, they are lying flat. And if we turn these around, we can even compare the dart control. Okay, so if I look here, let's look at this. I think I am seeing a little bit more dart control on your right back versus your left back. That's normal. With hers, it is less pronounced. With me, I have a noticeable difference between the right and left in the dart control. It just means that one side of your body, one shoulder blade may be curvier than the other. Again, if you look at the armhole, you can see she has a long, flat back armhole. That is normal. A back armhole is almost always longer than the front. There is your back pattern. So now let's examine this one, because we can lay it flat up to about here, but here it's not laying flat. So this is where I'm going to go from the waist, because waist darts are very common in fitting shells. And I'm going to go right up here. And I'm not going to go totally through it, but I would reinforce this. But look right here. We have a waist dart and we have a bust dart. And now it is laying flat. This is her pattern. If she closes this, Notice how our dart gets bigger. That's normal. But usually when you have a C cup or larger, it's generally recommended that you split the dart control. So you might want to do a smaller dart here and a small dart here. Likewise, if you didn't want to have a waist dart and maybe you had some gaping here, you know you always have gaping issues, maybe what you would want to do is close this dart and then, or take this dart and transfer it to here. Okay, you can do that as well. So what you might want to do is draw a line here, cut it here, and then...
And see how far it gets.
Yes, yes, exactly. So this is where your apex is. And I'm going to compare this with this one as well because, let's see, let me just see where these are. Yeah, these are pretty much at
Symmetrical.
these. Yeah, they really are. This one might be over a little farther to front. We're going to take some measurements there because this is something on the pattern where I may just want to make sure that these are even from the center of the body out. That could be a little marking error, so to speak. Okay, so right here, I'm going to go pretty much straight down. I'm going to try to match what I did before. Up to and almost right to that bust point and right there. When you are doing your grain lines, this is your grain line. This is your center front. You could create a whole pattern piece from this. When you're doing your fitting shell, you have your choice. But I generally like to have a center back seam because it just, what if I have to take, you know, center back seam in a little bit, just makes it easier. So this is Deb's body from the waist up, and this over here, that's the front, and this over here is Deb's body from
The back.
the neck down to the waist, the back. And you know exactly how it should be. Now let's check something out. Check out those armholes. Deb's armholes are a lot like mine. Look how curvy they are. See that acute curve? Full bust. Let's look over here. See this? Now there might be some discrepancy in here. I might want to, when I make this in a gingham, what I might want to do is just redraw this if I feel one is better than the other. All right, so you will add your seam allowance, but this is really telling me Deb has a full bust, a little fullness on the under bust in upper rib cage, very curvy armhole, which is typical of that full bust. And on the back, she has upper body curvature, a nice amount of upper body curvature, not too much, not too little. Well, I don't want to say too much because everybody's different, but you have more dart control than I personally have. And that's fine. Like if you work out a lot and you're doing upper body workouts, you are going to have more curvature and more muscularity in that area. Deb just asked me a question. Deb, what was your question?
So now what do I do with this?
Okay, so what you're going to do with this now is she's going to stitch up a muslin, and we're going to see how this fits. And she's going to use 1/4 inch gingham. It could be poly gingham, it could be cotton gingham. Cotton's a little bit easier to work with. When she does this, I want her to split her dart control so that it is about the same amount of dart control on the side seam dart and the waistline dart. Everything is going to be down flat, okay? Trace this off on a piece of paper. This is your grain line in the front. Now, what if there's a little bit of curve in here? Like I can see I went in a little bit too far here. Just connect these 2 points and draw a straight line. Yeah, now that could be body asymmetry too, but that's gonna be okay. Then when she transfers it to paper and she goes to draw her dart in, nobody stitches a dart to the bust point. Your dart should be at least 1 inch away from the bust point. So when you draw your legs on your pattern, they're going to start here, but you might want to come within 1 inch here and maybe 1.5 inches here, and then mark from the leg to the point. You do not do your dart to the point, or else you're going to have a Madonna 1980s cone bra look, which is not really attractive.
Sure
now, right here, if I look here, and it might be a little hard to see on the video, look straight down at your dart, Deb. Do you see how it's bowing out a little bit? This is your correct dart shape. So most of the dart legs on patterns tend to be straight. You may have to modify patterns for a slightly curved dart. Do I change this automatically in a pattern? Not necessarily, but I know my master pattern has a little bit of curvature, and oftentimes I tweak those darts in the fabric to match the curvature of these seams right here. So you're going to put your dart point here, and you're going to actually draw this in to be curved. So she has her homework cut out for her, and right now we're going to cut out, and Deb and I are going to look at some of her projects. I hope you have enjoyed this video up to this point. Be sure to watch part 2 of this video because I want to show you how I applied this concept of the Saran wrap block to a commercial pattern. Have I made patterns from this block? Yes, I have. But generally speaking, it's not to make patterns from. It's just more of a tool. And I use that tool to really help me identify several critical areas on the body to help get a great fit in garments. The question that Deb asked, can you do this from the waist down? Yes, I have. And I'm going to cover that and show you my pattern in part 2. Can you use duct tape to do this? Yes, you can, but I don't recommend duct tape for the upper body from the waist up because when I did that, you always want to do the chest last, which is why I emphasized in the Saran wrap block to do the chest last because it can be very hard to breathe. And generally the duct tape, because you're working with small strips, takes a lot longer to do. So I recommend the upper body for Saran wrap, and you can do the lower body for Saran wrap. I just think it's a lot easier. But yes, you can use duct tape, and I will show you some of the pictures of how I did this as well. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to get better with some of the Instagram posts. And listen to my podcast, So Chat with Kat, on iTunes and Spotify, as well as joining my Facebook group, Cyber Sewing School.